Hi y'all, and welcome back to KDQ's Astro News. So today I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Libra, or also known as the flower moon. So you have the flower moon coming up on this Friday, May 1st, around 1 in the afternoon here, Eastern Standard Time. So I have a little bit of an announcement. I am going to be posting this in a few different areas this time on social media. In the spirit of Rahu, I really wanted to do something a little different and kind of expand. This is going to be the long form version. It should be on YouTube and Facebook on my Facebook page, but I'm also going to be starting to post some shorter bite-sized Astro Newses for those of y'all who just want something a little bit shorter and aren't here for all of my old man stories about the stars. But for those of you who do like all of my old man stories about the stars, I'm definitely going to still be doing these long form ones because this is where my passion lies. I really believe in depth and I really enjoy having a more holistic approach to astrology. But I'm also going to attempt to put the long form version in an audio format as well on Spotify. We'll see. I'm not so sure if I'm going to be able to do that. I haven't set it up yet, but that is my goal. So anyway, like I said, today we're going to be talking about this full moon coming up in Libra and the star SWATI. It's also the star Arcturus. Arcturus, or SWATI, in mid-Libra is ruled by Rahu, or the North Node. And so I said in my last video, in my Ashwini new moon video, that K2, or the South Node, is the body without a head. And so now we're going to be talking about the exact opposite here in Libra. Ruled by Rahu is the head without a body. So there's going to be a lot going on here for this full moon. There's a lot of Venusian energy in particular. The sun is still in Aries, but it has moved into Bharani. It has moved away from Ashwini into Bharani, which is very feminine. It's ruled by Venus, and its symbol is actually the yoni. And so we also have Venus itself is at home in Taurus in the star Rohini. So we have a lot of this flowery spring-like energy happening right now. And so it's very fertile, it's very blossoming, it's very expansive. I want to talk a little bit about SWATI first. SWATI here is known as the independent star. It is known as the independent star because it's in a very vacuous space in outer space. It's very isolated and alone. Its closest neighbor is actually Spica, or Chitra, which is also in Libra and is also the 0-point elliptical that we measure the zodiac elliptical on. So otherwise, over there, we really just have SWATI hanging out by itself. Its symbol is actually a fresh shoot, or a single blade of grass that's swaying in the wind, which is perfectly in alignment with its deity because every star has its own deity. And the ruler of SWATI is Vayu, or wind or air. He's the god of wind, or it is actually also the name of the wind or air element itself. Their Shakti power is the power to scatter or to disperse among the winds, and their desire is to have the freedom to go wherever they please. So you can see here with SWATI, there is a heavy emphasis on wind. And like I said as well, SWATI is in mid-Libra, and Libra is actually an air sign. And so it's right at home here with this very light and free sign. And also with that rulership of Rahu as well, there is a little bit of a detachment happening here in SWATI because they're not the most grounded. Like that symbolism of the fresh shoot really is alluding to the fact that it's just now starting to get its roots, and it isn't quite grounded. It can so freely be picked up in a strong gust of wind. They're also Deva types, so they're very peaceful, angelic types, and their pursuit is Artha. I think this might be the first time I'm talking about an Artha nakshatra, and Artha, as opposed to Dharma or Kama or Moksha, Artha is about material pursuits. So it's actually about acquisition, wealth, actually trying to gain something here in the material world, which also plays very strongly into this mixture of Rahu, which is, like I said, the North Node, and is engaged very much in the senses, in the physical world and all of its illusions, as well as Venus. Venus is also related to the senses, but in a much more pleasurable, artistic way. It's also merchant class, which also has a lot to do with this Libra Rashi. Libra is also very business savvy. They love people and they also love compromise and negotiation. Also, you know, the scales is an old-fashioned way to measure value and wealth and currency. As you know, it's like an old-fashioned cash register. This star, SWATI, has a lot to do with wealth, business, also creativity, but their approach to it is very high-minded, very pure, and very, like I said, Deva type, angelic. So in general, there is a lot of things happening that have to do with Venus. And so Venus in Vedic astrology is a little bit more complex in my opinion. I know in Western astrology, Venus, you think of love and relationships and sometimes beauty, and all those things definitely are associated with Venus. But Venus also has to do with things like wealth and tangible values, the things and items that we have, but also it has to do with things that are naturally separated. To have a relationship, to have union, we have to have two separated, distinctive things. And I feel like this theme is coming up a lot with this moon in SWATI, because as opposed to Ashwini, like I was saying, Ashwini is very masculine. I was saying it has this divine masculine pollinating, pursuing energy to it. SWATI is the exact opposite. It's very receptive and it represents space. Is a big vacuous space that is like a container that can contain ideas, new forms, and is fertile in the opposite way that Ashwini is fertile, is in a receptive sense. So the full moon itself is in SWATI and Libra, but the sun right now, like I was saying, is in Bharani. So Bharani is actually the yoni and is ruled by Venus as well in Aries. And it's this birth canal. It's this yoni, the vulva, the vagina. So it is very feminine in nature, but there is also sort of a gatekeeping energy that comes up with Venus in general, but also both Bharani and SWATI. These are very high society signs. These are people who have strong taste. And with that, you do get a bit of a discernment. There's a bit of a distinction and separation going on here between the sexes, since, you know, the last moon was very masculine and this one is very feminine, but exaggerating those things only to then provide more union and attraction between the two. SWATI itself has a lot to do with space, outer space, but also liminal spaces. So different types of spaces like internet or apps, forums, also lucid dreaming, daydreaming, video games, like different spaces that aren't just what we're used to here in the 3D physical world, but other spaces that people can kind of connect to in their consciousness without necessarily being physically there. And these spaces remind me of like a blank canvas. And so thinking about ways that you can cultivate more space in your life specifically for creativity is ideal right now. And also that may also require releasing some things or shedding or kind of condoing a little bit. That way you can have these new refreshing ideas blow into your life. So we're thinking about, like I said, creating a container for new ideas or connections as well, creating new spaces for people to connect socially, because Libra, like I said, is an air sign and is the 7th house. So it has a lot to do with one-to-one interactions as well as business. Being able to cultivate and create new spaces for relationships as well is really important right now, even if that means a little bit of release as well. And despite the fact that SWATI is in Libra, it is known as the independent star, but there's a bit of a contrast going on here because Libra in general spends a lot of time counterbalancing. Like I said, with Venus, we're getting a distillation between the sexes. We're seeing the separation between things instead of union, together, molded together side of life, which is what you would see with Jupiter. So in the sign of Pisces or Sagittarius, you get a more collectivist, together, unified. But Venus is very discerning and very categorical, if you will. It creates a lot of separation. So SWATI is using these scales of balance in a way to reflect its own self in other people. And so sometimes you'll see Swati can be very immersed in different people and personalities. They can get really lost in their relationships as well as friendships and groups, or even just ideas and concepts. Swati people can get very caught up in that and lose their identity. And so, like I said, with this fresh shoot or this single blade of grass, it is independent, but it is also fragile. Its independence is fragile in a way. It's just now finding a way to get its feet. And actually, Bharani being the womb, the sun, like I said, is in Bharani, the womb, the yoni, the mother. In a way, Swati represents that first breath that we take to be able to separate ourselves from our mother, from our homeland, and to go explore foreign places, foreign and new ideas, to be able to gain a sense of independence within ourselves through reflecting what we have learned. So like I said, we're kind of stuck in between being unified with other people and also experiencing new things and finding ourselves at the same time. Like I was saying in the Ashwini video, it's still very important to keep and maintain boundaries right now, because it can be very easy to get swept up in different narratives. And speaking of foreign lands and leaving your homeland, this star is amazing for any kind of travel. And I know I mentioned that also in the last video, with Ashwini being very physical and very fast movement and travel, whereas Swati has to do with drifting. Like I said, its Shakti power is the power to scatter or disperse. And it can mean ideas, but also it means to be able to drift far away into foreign lands, to experience new concepts. And so Rahu in particular, the North Node, like I said, has to do with things that are unfamiliar, foreign, new ideas that break down the concepts that we have already established, things that we're used to, the sort of confines of our reality that we've become immune or accustomed to. Rahu breaks those boundaries down. Swati has a lot to do with exploring and finding new ways. And it doesn't have to necessarily be physically traveling, although of course that's really good right now, or moving completely, literally uprooting and moving. Those things are favorable right now, but also engaging with new ideas. So watching a foreign film, listening to foreign music, or it doesn't have to literally be from another culture or another language. It can also just be from the other side of the aisle, you know, anything that exposes you to new people, new ideas, and new thoughts that you have not previously engaged with. Spend a little bit of time and create space and time for daydreaming, for coming up with ideas. You know, it reminds me of how people say the best ideas come to you while you're showering or while you're driving, because yeah, with Libra and Rahu, this is a very creative sign. It's a very artistic sign. When you think of getting those ideas when you're basically not trying, this is the energy of Swati. Being able to even just create that space for you, or, you know, having a sense of boredom, even though it will probably be temporary, because it allows your mind to engage its imagination. And so then you will get these new insights and new downloads that you wouldn't have run into if you were just going over the same thought process. And if you do travel, I think some of the best places to travel would be urban environments where there's a lot of commerce. And like I said, they're merchant class, shopping and finding new clothes and home decor items, foreign items, trying foreign foods, things like that are very Venusian as well. Venus also has to do with exotic things, rare and exotic items. When we go on vacations, part of that is the souvenirs that we get and the exquisite cuisine that we can only get and remind us of that place. Those types of little things, all very connected to Swati. Something that I read from Barbara Pajan, she was talking about Swati moon and how Swati moon people are very rarely do they stay in their homeland. They usually move around a lot, but they're also very associated with mission trips. I think the reason why is because they're bringing these foreign ideas, you know, thinking of Rahu. Missionaries in general are usually inspired by negotiation, by being helpful. Like I said, the star is a Deva type. Not necessarily saying you have to go on a mission trip, even though once again, that would be very favorable at this time. Any way that you can go and bring your services and bring your foreign perspective into another place with need is another great use of this energy as well. So like I said, I kind of mentioned art a little bit. Claire Nocti had a video. saying that SWATI is very common with artists of all kinds, literary, visual arts, performing arts, music. And so art, I feel like I've been saying all year, but all of these signs all year are very creative. But this is the height of creativity here in SWATI. And it's about having an unbridled imagination and being able to bring your dreams into reality. So really engaging, like I said, this head, this Rahu, in a pleasurable and Venusian way and grounding it into tangible reality. Also, Venus, like I said, right now is in Taurus in the sign Rohini. And Rohini is also very sensitive to the arts. They're also very musical and they're very pleasure focused. And so finding the time to do something creative in a pleasurable way, whether it's cooking or gardening or needlepoint, like I said, doing something with your home and redecorating, just trying to find a way to really get back into the joy and sensual pleasure of creating. So the touch, the smell, the sight, using bright colors and finding harmony and trying new things in your outfits. All of those things are very auspicious right now. But alongside that is also innovation of any kind. This is a great time for new technological inventions, new ideas that think outside of the box. And again, like I said, with the mission trips, trying to find a way to fulfill a need. SWATI, very business-minded, and one of the most important parts of business is to do something that fills a need and is useful to other people. Thinking of any sort of innovations that you would like to have in your life, and that would be really important right now. I think that any type of inventions or ideas that you get would be really important to write them down because they could be very profitable. Oh, and I was also going to say, when it comes to making art, especially writing, sci-fi and fantasy, world building in particular, or video games, making video games, or any type of thing that cultivates a space, or if you do theater, really working on cultivating a space and a presence, or like I said, especially home decor and interior design, really thinking about the space with which you create and or your office environment, and bringing something a little more frivolous that brings a new fresh sense of energy into the space is can be very helpful to get things flowing, especially if you felt very stagnant. Like I said, we had that long stellium and Uttara Bhadrapada for that long time. It's nice to finally get this spring cleaning, fresh breath of fresh air in here. And speaking of the breath, I think that's one of my #1 recommendations, because SWATI, like I said, with this Rahu nakshatra, can be very ungrounded and scattered. Doing breath work in particular can be very useful at this time. Vayu, wind, the Shakti power to disperse and their wish to not be tied down and to go anywhere that they please. This sign is very connected to breath, especially right now. Mercury has entered Aries in Ashwini. Our thoughts are probably really speeding up now. Things are probably starting to move really quickly now that we're breaking up that Pisces stellium and moving into Aries. And so we can probably be feeling very scattered. Another thing is Rahu itself, which rules SWATI, is in the sign Shatabhisha, which is the sister sign, the cousin to SWATI, and is also ruled by Rahu. It's in mid-Aquarius. And so, which is also good for those innovations. Like I said, please write down your ideas. But also, it can lead to us being very scattered. Really connecting to the breath and bringing back our energy to our own inner self can be very helpful right now. So anything that gets the breath up, so whether it's walking and running, jogging, but also things like martial arts or yoga, and specifically any pranayama techniques. So prana is like the breath, it's our energy source. It's the inflow and exhale of our breath. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold, and then breathe out for a count of 4 can really hone our mind and hone our consciousness and bring us back into the present moment, because we can get very flighty, like I said, very lost in the sauce here, very stuck, especially if you spend a lot of time online or if you do a lot of writing or something that's very disembodied. It could be very healing and very grounding to focus on the breath. So breathing in for a count of 4 and holding at the top, breathing out for a count of 4, holding at the base, and then continuing that until you feel clear and centered again. And also that holding moment also reminds me of Swati. It's this stillness, this liminal in-between space. Being scattered can be a big issue right now, kind of getting really excited about starting a whole bunch of projects, but without nurturing those sprouts and allowing them to grow can be a bit of a warning right now, is not to get too ungrounded. Finally, I just wanted to say another warning too here with Swati is to avoid addictions and hyper-consumerism and getting too seduced by the physical world. So although it is really important right now to really, get in contact with your senses, try to not get too swayed by advertisements or wanting to get a whole new personality or a whole new identity, because those things are very fleeting and not fulfilling. And so that's one of the downsides to the North Node path in general and to Rahu in general, is that it doesn't have that same lasting satisfaction. We can have this real desire to kind of fill the void, the space, this vacuum, this womb space with anything and everything. Plenty of Swati people out there are great salesmen, great merchants, and they can make things sound really wonderful. But try not to get too caught up in that and try to stay true to yourself through this speeding up of energy, just so you can avoid the disillusionment and the crash of it not really fulfilling you and taking you away from your purpose. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Swati and this flower moon. So like I said, we've got this new fresh energy that is just like blowing a cool breeze over us after all that stagnant time that we had in the winter. Oh, and I'm not sure if I showed you, I don't think so, but here is my look for today. Hopefully you can see. I have my little flowers here. And let me show you my outfit if I can. It's just a dress, but yeah. I have this flowy sort of dress, I hope you can see, for Swati. So yeah, thank you guys for watching as usual. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy this flower moon. Thank you for supporting me, and yeah, like I said, I'm going to be on short form content. I'm going to try it out, trying to be in the spirit of Rahu. So I started a TikTok, and I am on Instagram and YouTube Shorts as well. So, and probably also here on Facebook in Reels, but I am not Rahu. I am very K2. I'm very much the opposite, and I don't have any signs in Libra. Libra is actually in my 12th house. So this is just an experiment. I just want to see where things go. But anyway, thank you all for supporting me. I love you all so much. Bye.